Step right up, step right up, step right up. The show is about to begin. Oh, hello there, and welcome back to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. What are the best things to see along the Santa Fe Trail? Well, come aboard, pack your provisions, and let's get started. A couple of months ago, one of my viewers asked for a video on the Santa Fe Trail. This turned out to be a larger undertaking than I expected, and the rabbit hole was much larger than I had packed enough provisions for. In the interim, I unfortunately lost that viewer's name, so if it was you, please leave a comment down below, let me know who you are, and I will give you proper credit for this video. In the meantime, let's get started. Editor's note. I found the viewer. It was RB Trujillo 1, so thank you for the video idea. The Santa Fe Trail began in Independence, Missouri, and made its way some 900 miles to Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was pioneered in 1821 by Missouri trader William Becknell and operated until 1880 when the railroad reached Santa Fe and the trail faded into the history of the Wild West. As you can imagine, records are sparse for this time period, but according to one source I found, between the 10-year time span of 1849 through 1859, some 12,000 people traveled the trail, along with 3,000 wagons and 50,000 animals. Imagine if just half of them had subscribed to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. So in conducting research for this video, I found that there are still quite a few sites that you can see along the Santa Fe Trail. So many, in fact, that it was hard to narrow it down. The original list I started with was from the National Park Service website, and they have 117 different sites that you can see. These include museums, historical homes, historical sites, outdoor activities, all along the Santa Fe Trail. So you can imagine it was hard for me to narrow it down. I've tried to include a little bit of everything, and I include at least one site in every state. So let's get started, shall we? Starting in central Missouri, I present to you Arrow Rock State Historic Site Visitor Center. Whew, that's a mouthful. This center features 9,000 square feet of exhibit space, which traces the history of the region chronologically from the Native American presence to the Louisiana Purchase, to the War of 1812, to the Civil War, and to the present, and all periods in between. I think this would be a great way to start off any Santa Fe Trail adventure. Traveling next to western Missouri, I had a hard time because there are quite a few historic homes available for touring. One could visit the Alexander Major's house, the Bingham Wagner estate, or the Owens McCoy house. All offer a unique historical vantage point, and I suggest you do your own research for which seem most interesting to you. What I chose is the Rice Tremonti home, which was built in 1844 and was used as a jumping-off point for emigrants on both the Oregon and the California trails, in addition to the Santa Fe Trail. This was mentioned in many traveler diaries. There is also a log cabin on the site that was constructed in the 1830s and is still standing today. In addition to the Rice Tremonti home, I would also visit the Independence Courthouse Square and Truman Courthouse, which was the official start of the Oregon Trail. I mean, if you're in Missouri, you might as well kill two birds with one stone, right? The original building on the site went up in 1836 and has undergone many changes and additions over the years. Traveling westward, we enter Kansas. In the east, I would definitely visit 3 places, and I would most likely visit another 3 sites. On my definite list would be the Post Office Oak in Council Grove. This is the site where, between 1825 and 1847, Santa Fe Trail travelers would leave messages in a box at the foot of the tree. The messages conveyed trail conditions and other pertinent information, and so the tree was given the moniker, the Post Office Oak. Just down the road from the Post Office Oak, I would also stop by the Last Chance store. This store opened in 1857 and is the oldest remaining commercial building in Council Grove. It was the last opportunity for traders bound for Santa Fe to purchase supplies before venturing into the homelands of the native tribes. hence the name, the Last Chance Store. Last on my definite list would be the Mahaffey Stagecoach Stop and Farm. I hope I'm saying that right. This stagecoach stop began serving travelers in 1858 and is the only working stagecoach stop left along the Santa Fe Trail, so it offers a unique view into what life was like along this famous trade route. Now, if time allows, and honestly, I would try to ensure that time did allow, I would also visit the Hayes House Restaurant and Council Oak, both in Council Groves, and the Shawnee Indian Mission State Historic Site in Fairway. Moving on to central Kansas, I would definitely recommend a visit to the Barton County Historical Society Museum. This museum includes a historical village consisting of a church, a one-room schoolhouse, a windmill, post office, railroad depot, barn, residences, and other structures. I believe it would be a great way to experience what life was like back in the 1800s. If time allows, I might also recommend at least driving by the Plumbutes Massacre site and the Jarvis Creek Crossing Chavez murder site, especially for those who enjoy the macabre parts of history, as well as Fry's Ruts, which is a very well-preserved example of the wagon ruts still in evidence along the trail. Traveling into West Kansas, there are two sites I can recommend visiting, including the only one on this list that I've actually visited, and that is the Boot Hill Museum in Dodge City. It's very commercial and very touristy, but it's a fun stop that highlights the glory days of the Queen of the Cowtowns. I also think it's important to visit the 100th Meridian Marker, which served as a boundary between nations, first between France and Spain, and later as the boundary for the Louisiana Purchase, and finally between Mexico and the U.S. The meridian symbolizes the physical demarcation where the sophisticated East ended and the Wild West began. Again, if time allows, you could also visit Fort Dodge and the Dodge City Convention and Visitors Bureau for more historical recreations. In Colorado, I have two recommendations. The first would be Bent's Old Fort National Historic Site. Now, this is not an original building, it's a reconstruction of the original Bent's Fort, which was the only major permanent white settlement along the Santa Fe Trail between Missouri and the Mexican settlements. The original fort was constructed in 1833, and what stands now is a reconstruction of that fort, but it still offers a one-of-a-kind view into life on the Santa Fe Trail. The second site in Colorado is Boggsville Historic Site, which is a reconstructed historic town originally founded in 1862 by Thomas Boggs. It quickly became an important center of commerce and trade in the region. Many of the buildings here are original, though renovations are ongoing. In Oklahoma, I would definitely visit Autograph Rock, which served as a natural guest book, if you will, of Santa Fe travelers who would sign their name in the soft sandstone bluffs. Finally, in New Mexico, I recommend at the very least stopping by two sites as you finish up your tour of the Santa Fe Trail. Fort Union National Monument stands at the site of Fort Union, now just ruins of a once major supply fort along the trail. Founded in 1851, Fort Union's troops initially patrolled the trail. It operated as a fort until 1891. The next stop would be the St. James Don Diego Hotel in Cimarron. Henry Lambert, who was President Lincoln's personal chef, established a saloon here in 1872. By 1880, the saloon had evolved into a two-story Adobe Hotel. Allegedly, the likes of Buffalo Bill Cody, Annie Oakley, Kit Carson, Frank and Jesse James, Wyatt Earp, Billy the Kid, and Blackjack Ketchum all stayed here at some point. A staple of every true Wild West saloon, bullet holes are still evident in the tin ceiling. And, if time allows, be sure to stop by the Santa Clara Cemetery, Pecos National Historical Park, the Kit Carson Museum, and the entire town of Las Vegas, New Mexico. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ding the bell for notifications. And in the meantime, I'll catch you on down the Santa Fe Trail.